AT, Andre.
Come on, Dre.
Yep. Trippin with Let's Go. Woo! Trippin with Theobold.
What's your name?
Theobold.
Yeah.
Driggity. Let's go. Trippin with Theobold. Trippin.
What are we doing?
Trippin with Theobold.
Come on, Dre.
Let's see, mic check 1 2. We on? Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the 118th episode of Trippin with Theobold. I'm your host, Andre Theobold. Welcome to the show. Before we go any further, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. As y'all can see, we up here. As you can see, we coming up here in Trippin with Theobold Studios. We came a long way. We have come a long way. Yeah, we have come a long way in Trippin with Theobold land. As y'all can see, I'm in my studio, my newly upgraded studio, like I'm slowly building. So as y'all can see, I got my mic game figured out. Hopefully the audio sounding more crisp. Hopefully it's sounding more, efficient. And I'm not always gonna have the headset on. I just have this right now so I can monitor my sound and see what I'm sounding like. But right now I'm sounding pretty good, But as promised, on every episode that contains the number 6 or 8, we do a 6888 centric episode, which is why you see 6888 right here. See, I'm not quite figured out yet in Trippin with Theobold land. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So as y'all can see, I got that 6888 up there. So that means that this is a 6888 centric episode. Should be a fun episode. But see what we got going on here. So we're at the 2-minute mark, so I can talk a little freer. I don't got to worry about, I'm not going to be vulgar, but I can use more adult language. I can talk free-ish. That's what it's all about, right? It's about being free. But before we go any further, like you guys know how I do over here in Trippin with Theobold land, got to do the tongue twisties, man. Got to get the mouth warmed up. Pause. Tongue twisties. So today's letter for the tongue twisties, I'm trying to figure this part of it out right now. My face is kind of shiny on this side. Okay, there we go. So I'm trying to figure out this whole, how should I put it? I'm trying to figure out this whole slideshow thing, got the gain down a little. See, I'm fancy right now. I can see all my gain levels and stuff. I can see when I'm popping. Pause. But but now I gotta figure this out for probably the next couple episodes. But right now, as y'all can see at the bottom, I got my socials. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. So follow me if you haven't done so already. But I want to do the same for my tongue twisties, so I can be more social media friendly or more social media savvy when I chop these videos up. And I got to figure out my hotkeys for the tool that I'm working on, so I can actually just click through. But for right now, this is good enough. So here we are. So as y'all know, in Trippin with Theobold land, you can read along with me or you can watch me struggle. The choice is yours, because you always have a choice. You always have a choice in Trippin with Theobold land. Let's go ahead and get these things going. So number 1, Ivy Impala insisted on inserting ice cream into an ice box. You gotta read that one slow. Might come up and Ivy Impala insisted on inserting ice cream into the ice box. Ivy Impala insisted on inserting ice cream into an ice box. Next one. Iggy Inchworm inches into an igloo. I like that one. Let's read it one more again. Iggy Inchworm inches into an igloo. For the final time. Iggy Inchworm inches into an igloo. Good job. Keep going. Hey. Let me cut that out. Here we go. Ida Ivy identifies the ivory iris. Man, that's a doozy right there. Idy Iva identified the ivory iris. Last time, Idy Ivy identified the ivory iris. Okay, we got 2 more to go. Here we go. Irish. Oh, this is a tricky one here. I'm gonna struggle with this one. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. I say wish wash. Wish wash. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. One more again. Let's get it one more time. Here we go. Irish wristwatch, Swiss wristwatch. That's a doozy. Up here wish washing through these tongue twisties. Here we go. This is the last one. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. Try this again. Here we go. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. Menage a boogie. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. It's a lot of menaging going on. One more again, final time. Here we go. Let's get it for the 3rd time. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. And yay, tongue twisties are done. The mouth is all warmed up. Pause. So there'll be less trippage on the show. Right? Even though this is Trippin with Theobold, we want to minimize the trippage when it comes to the speech. So anywho, let's go ahead and get into the topic at hand. So as y'all know, first I gotta plug in right quick. Hold on a second. I totally forgot. Hold on a second. Oh, my man Donnie hit me up. He be hitting me up on accident. I wonder why. I wonder if he meant to hit me up, or if something's going on in boxing that I should know about. Anywho, let me go ahead and plug in right quick. I forgot I have to get my visuals ready. Let me get these visuals ready. Let me see where it is. Here we go. iPhone. And then I have to start up my QuickTime player. Okay, we are good. Let me go ahead. It's a lot of stuff, man. When you over here doing it, over here in Do-It-Yourself Productions Incorporated, man, it's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So I hope that you guys are enjoying what you paid for. So here we go. Let me see, new movie recording. Okay, phone should come up. Okay. And I gotta switch it to my phone. It's a lot of moving pieces here. A lot of little moving pieces if my computer would act right. And it looks like it doesn't want to act right. Oh, there we go. Maybe not. Screen. Okay, there we go. Got that up. We are almost there. Bear with me, people. I appreciate it. Okay, yay. And look at this. We are ready to continue moving forward. So here we go. So this is the book that I'm starting off reading right now at the moment. It's called One Woman's Army. And basically it's like a memoir of Major Charity Adams, who was the leader of the 688. So I figured I would come here and start here first to, because the main question I'm trying to answer is I'm trying to figure out what my grandma's role exactly was in the 688. I'm trying to figure out her exact role, because right now all we know is that this unit resolved a large back order of mail, and they did it in like record time. Like they did it in like 1/3 of the time it was supposed to take, and they did such a good job. Went from they resolved the mail issue, the mail backlog issue in England, and they did it in France. So when you have a machine that can do something like that, there are probably different roles within the organization. So I'm trying to figure out what the different roles were within the 6888, and I'm trying to figure out what precisely was my grandmother's role, right? Um, because it's my belief that there were maybe like 10 different like major roles within the 6888, 10-ish, and each role people were like, because you had to think people took tests or the women in the 6888 had to take tests, and they were like selected. It wasn't just go sign up. It was like take you had to take a test to see if you could even place into this regiment or into this group. And then once you were in this group, based upon how you tested, my assumption is, women, got put in different groups. Like, for example, you might have people that were good at sorting, right? Like they could alphabetize stuff real quick, or you might have people that, had a photographic memory to where they could remember an address out of 500 that was taken or that was given like a few days ago, that you probably had women that were like, or people that were good with just size and dimensions of packages, if you look at a box or look at a package, can you tell me how much it weighs? Like so there's another, when we visited, I think we were in Birmingham, when we went to um King Edward School. I think it was King Edward School. Yeah, we went to King Edward School. There was a book there, and I took a picture of it, but I can't find it. But no, it wasn't even a book. It was a pamphlet, and it was an actual test that they had to take to even get into the 6888, or not to get in, but it was a test that they used to look at, like, to get the skill level of who they were admitting into the 6888. So if you have this test, you can probably go back and deduce what type of roles, the women had within the unit, So anyways, that's why I'm doing all this. I'm trying to figure out what my grandma's exact role was in the 6888, and also figure out all the other roles that went in there. Cause I'm pretty sure, cause right now it's like this. At first you didn't even know this group existed. Now you see that it existed, and how you look at the magnificent work that they accomplished. Now it's, how did all that work? How did all the different, regiments and rankings and all that work? So that's what I'm working on right now. So anyways, that's why I'm starting with one woman's army. Come on, Dre. Because I think if you look at the leader of the group, you can probably you might be able to, I mean, right now, this is I think right now, this is the hub. In my opinion, this is the hub book of the 6888. Maybe I'm wrong, but why not get the words or the truth from the leader's mouth? So to me, this is the best place to start. And once I finish that, not making any promises or guarantees, I mean, eventually I'm going to get to this book here, right? It's called Letters for Victory, and it's a book with how they set up the mail system overseas. But I want to see, this kind of tells more of the how, whereas I think there's a lot of different pieces you have to kind of read. Like, you have to do a lot of reading to figure this out, So I'm not sure if I'm going to read this next, but right now I'm starting with this book. So as y'all know, from the last 6888 episode, which was 116, we I think where I left off at was still in the beginning, but basically where I left off at um was basically was when she was going off to school. Her parents basically told her, we tried to teach you right from wrong, just do right, and that's like a loaded, deep quote, you know, like the emphasis is, hey, look, we have tried to teach you right from wrong. So try means that, you know, either we knew everything, but we couldn't get it across to you, or there's so much more we don't know, but we told you or we taught you what we could. Um, at the end of the day, just do right. Right. So that's a very loaded quote. Um, and yeah, so that's where we kind of left off at. So basically, like I said, she was born and raised, I believe, in South Carolina. She came up, she was from what I read, she came from a very conservative family. She was a daughter of a preacher's kid. Her mom was a teacher. She read a lot, like my grandma. Um, and when she went away to school, the one thing I read that I found interesting was um, her mom. I think this is where her father bought her this like 150-pound trunk that she had to put all her clothes in, and she tried to like dress more like an adult, and her mom wanted her to dress more like a schoolgirl, and she said her mom won that argument. So she came up in a very conservative household. Um, Nothing like um crazy. Like she had a good supporting like family. She didn't seem like she was too poor from what I read. Um, but had good family values. You know, was very well read. But then the part that kind of made me laugh was when she said when she went to college, she said I think she was like tall. So she was like one of the taller like females there, but she was a freshman, and she hoped that she could like, I think basically she hoped to blend in with the upperclassmen, I guess, Oh, she went to Wilberforce University. I didn't even know. So I heard of Wilberforce University, but I didn't know like it was a HBCU. Number one, and number two, I didn't even know where it was. So Wilberforce, I believe, is a city in Ohio. So um, I didn't know that, and I think it might be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, HBCU. I should know that, but you live and learn, right? But the funny thing I saw that she said was like the terminology, man. She said there was this term called punching. It's called punching, and basically it was where you, I guess, um, basically it's like a dating term to where you were seen with your significant other on campus. Um, me, my mind when I hear punching, um, yeah, uh, let me get my mind out the gutter. But maybe punching had those same connotations. Maybe that's how. Maybe like what if like punching was the same as like smashing, like how we use today. Like today's term we use the word smash, or a lot of, or not we, but in society today, um, in the hipster, or in the young people's world, the word they use for those kind of acts is smashing. Is smash or clap, but punching. So punching, maybe I'm thinking, she was trying to be PC, for the book, because you got to think of, she actually came up in a very conservative household, went to the military. So punching probably doesn't mean what we think it means. But when I read it, I was like, I had to go back and reread that again. But anyways, enough of punching. So the part two that I found interesting was, of course, she grew up when everything was still segregated. Um, and then she said, in the book, she said that when she graduated Wilberforce, I think she went to grad school at Ohio State University. I think I could be wrong. Um, but what was interesting was the urge or the need to go back to teach her own, right? So she went back to teach. She was a teacher, right? So she went back to teach in her community. And that was interesting. So she made that a point where it was like, no, we got to get back to teach our own, you know? And we don't really have that. I mean, now everything's integrated, but there's still segregation with an integration, but we're not going to get into that right now. But um, but no, but that to me was pretty interesting. How she said, you know, I gotta get back to teach my own, you know. Um, and then she even tried to put um her students on the game, you know, like she wasn't just teaching like curriculum. And this way, she kind of reminded me of Miss Jones a little bit, you know. R.I.P. Miss Jones. Um, but she knew that she had a certain curriculum that she had to teach, but she was also like, look, I'm trying to teach you something that you can take away from life. Like, damn this test, like take this with you and learn. So basically, she said something about trying to put her students on the game, not in those exact words, but um, basically how it was better because she taught math, right? So it was better to teach, or it was better to save than to spend on credit. Is basically what, you know, she was trying to stress to her students. But I guess when the curriculum, or she kind of alluded to the fact that the advisory board didn't like that, so she had to like lay off of that, you know. So that reminds me of my grandma, because my grandma was a big saver, man. She used to always save, man. She used to always say, if you make a dollar, save a dime. If you can't save a dime, save a nickel, but save something. Save something. Yeah, we had a cousin in our family who used to visit my grandma, and he used to get paid well. You know, he used to get like he used to get a good paycheck, and he'd always blow his money off and stuff. And my grandma would be like, she'd be mad. She'd be like, where's he get all this money and don't save a goddamn dime? He can't save nothing. He can't save nothing. Like, she would be mad. And say, how you make all this money and you can't save one nickel? You can't save one nickel? Yeah, my grandma was big on saving, man. She could save, man. She saved everything, man. Like, you know, because she grew up during the Great Depression. But man, she always would like have some kind of snack, like bread or some crackers. You know, she always had like a little Ziploc bag, and she would save. Like, she would eat half a cracker and save that half. And then next thing you know, you got half of a cracker. She take that half of a cracker and save that, and then crush that, and then save half of that one. She would keep having it. So it would go from half to a quarter to where she just got crumbs, and now she eating crumbs. But she always just saved, like, you know. Anyways, um, but same mentality, you know, save. I mean, that's basic knowledge nowadays, right? It's better to just save, you know, than to spend on credit. But what else, man? That stuck out towards me, man. So when basically got the she basically got like a telegram or something when she was on her way back to Ohio to go to Atlanta to report for the military, because a teacher of hers, I think at Wilberforce, had submitted her or recommended her to um, submit for the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps, or the WAC, or the Women's Army Corps, and the WAAC. But the title of the book, as you see right here, says WAC. But someone from Wilberforce, I think, saw like her talent and was like, yo, you need to apply for the military. I think you'd be good. She did. But then the military basically took forever to get back to her, or didn't really give her a timeline on when she was going to hear back. So when she was heading back to, I think it was Cincinnati or whatever, She got a telegram saying that, look, you got to report to Atlanta like tomorrow. So that whole little train ride thing was interesting because you saw the segregation basically on the train from her from her account. She said that the train was split, or there was a rope in the train, and basically the whites sat at the back of the train and the blacks sat in the front. So that's something I never really thought about, because when you hear about segregation in the buses and you hear about Rosa Parks, you think, okay, blacks got to go to the back of the bus, but and whites were in the front. So were these trains were they more luxurious in the back? Was it cooler in the back? Probably the back of the train, I guess, was the better place to be. So that's where white people sat at, or were allowed to sit at, and blacks had to sit in the front. But the interesting part was when she got the train, she basically held up the train, and the conductor gave her some slack and said, "Look, okay, I'll wait." And then she even like pulled him out to the phone booth to see what the memo was, from home, because her cousin or somebody or her aunt was at the train station and was like, "Yo, you got to get this telegram. You got to call home." So the part that was interesting to me was when she was on the phone and the train conductor was leaving. She said that she basically had him by the coattail to say, "Hold on a second, just give me a second. Just, I got to figure out what this message is about." And her quote was, or she alluded, basically she said she expected to be arrested for assault. So that's crazy to think that she was like, that ambitious about going to the military. Like she was risking an assault charge. So that was pretty interesting, But then again, that's determination. Like my grandma was determined, I remember one time my grandma, I was in grad school and I'm working on this research paper I got to get turned in I had to get it turned in on Friday, and it's Friday, and I was still working on this paper, and I had to not only print it out, but I had to get in the car and I had to drive like 40 minutes to my school to go turn it in. And my grandma, comes downstairs, and I'm like mid paper, or I'm like mid getting ready to print this paper out. And my grandma was like, "Andre, when you get a chance, can you get me a basin from downstairs so I can soak my feet?" Right. And she said this from upstairs. She was like, she kind of yelled it. She's like, "Can you get me a basin so I can soak my feet?" So the way my grandma did was she would shout my name from the top of the steps. She'd be like, "Andre," and I had to run up. And I ran upstairs, and I ran up. I was like, "Yeah, grandma, what is it?" She'd be like, "Can you go downstairs and get the basin from on top of the freezer so I can soak my feet?" I was like, "All right, grandma. Yeah. I'll get in a few minutes." So I go downstairs and I'm literally like about to get it in 5 minutes. But I think like 2 minutes passed by and I just heard like a hurricane of just noise in the washroom. Just pots and pans flying, and just like I thought somebody broke in. And I go in the washroom. I'm like, "Yo, grandma, what's going on? You all right?" She was like, "If I can..." What did she say? She said, "If I gotta wait any longer, I might as well be dead." I ain't got that kind of time. I do it myself. So my grandma, like I said, she was determined, man. So, I could kind of see like, I can kind of see like how women were in that era. It was like, yo, you got to do it for yourself, So, as I say, no risk, no reward. But anyways, as I was reading, what I found interesting was, her going to the army was like me going to Iowa, it was like kind of like frowned upon, you know, it was just frowned upon, for different reasons. But what was interesting was, or where the difference is her friends knew about the army, good or bad, and they actually did research, and they were kind of like doing research to have debates and asking her questions and stuff, and people had a stance on whether she should go or not go, or whether the Army was good or bad, you know. Whereas with me going to Iowa, it was like none of my friends gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like they ain't give a shit, you know. So um that was interesting. But how her going to the Army was like me going to Iowa was, like I said, it was the interview process, right? So her interview process was, you know, basically she sat down in front of, or she um I think she said she got interviewed by like three white um people in the military at this table. And they kind of had like a condescending tone or whatever, or they would ask certain questions or whatever, you know. And it was those interviews are pretty intense, you know. I'm pretty sure military interviews are different from corporate America interviews, but the stress level is probably around the same if I had to guess, you know, because I remember when I was interviewing, um, you know, it's kind of like it's like a pissing contest almost, you know. They want to they want to know, like, but you can't take the bait, you know. If you go in there and if you're trying to outshine the master, law one, you know, that means you don't get the game. But by the way you answer certain questions, you know, they can tell that you got game or you get the game, you know. So um, one of her responses that I like that I'm going to take a page out of, it's real simple, man. But one tidbit I'm going to take and put in my little tool belt for if I ever have to go on an interview for anything is whenever they ask you, um, do you think you can do such and such, or do you think you can do X, Y, and Z? Her response was, if any other woman can, given the same training and opportunity, I can. So that's gonna be like in my tool belt, you know. Like, yeah, if you give, like, yeah, if any other person can do this, give me the same training opportunity, I can do it. Real simple, you know. But to think about that on the fly, or to be able to, because you got to think back then there was none of this Kaplan training, no interview prep. There was none of that, you know. So she basically had to go figure this out on her own, you know. But as now it's like, you know, you can do mock interviews, you can go on YouTube and listen to Madeline Mann and get all the cheat codes from HR, or for what they're looking for or how to answer certain questions. So the fact that she knew all this was impressive, you know. Um, and then uh the one that, so the way the chapter ends is it ends with her saying something where I'm just like, oh wow, like it shows that she got the game, you know. Like the one thing I learned when I was working in corporate America is there's the technical and then there's the politics. You know, there's some people that know all politics and no technical. There's some people that know all technical and no politics, you know. But the best candidate is someone that kind of knows, that is an expert in one area and knowledgeable of the other, you know. But basically what she said in closing with this chapter, or the before, it's called Before. That's the chapter called Before. And she said even so basically this is her in response to, like, or talking about blacks' roles in the military during wartime. She said that even in the battle areas, Negroes were denied the opportunity to fight for their country and were kept in the dirty and most unmilitary positions as the unsung support personnel. So basically, and I didn't notice until I got back from the trip or while I was on the trip, but blacks during World War II weren't given, like, they weren't allowed to carry guns or, like, you know, any type of, like, you know, guns or anything like that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. You know, it's like, you know, if you want to fight for the country, why not sacrifice the people that you don't really care for, you know? But there was probably a deeper reason into why blacks weren't given weapons to fight with. But like I said, I'm probably gonna. There's another book I need to read. There's another book by another guy. I'll mention it next episode or next time I bring this up. But the fact that she knew, it was like she knew, it's like she knew the situation, you know. Even in the battle areas, Negroes were denied the opportunity to fight for their country and were kept in the dirty and most unmilitary positions as the unsung support personnel. So she knew this after the fact. So I don't think she knew this going into the military, but reflecting back on it, you know, that's a real response. You know, that's like, you know, like that's some real shit. So that's kind of how it is. Not all the time. Like, you know, there's, I don't want to get into corporate America jargon or whatever, but I kind of see some parallels with that, right? I remember when I first got my first job out of college, you know, I didn't get the most glorious work. I'll put it to you like that. It wasn't, I'm not going to say my first job was bullshit. Like I'm sitting there like, okay, you want me to basically go fuck around in a spreadsheet, pardon my language. But my next role, on my next team, it was like I had like more technical responsibilities, but it wasn't the cream of the crop. Like it wasn't the work that you want to go brag about, right? Like roles I got put in a lot of times in my engineering experience where I got put in roles of, I had to work on BITE, which is a built-in test equipment, right? Or there's built-in self-test, you know. It's like, or you know, fault logging and fault management, you know. Give us the shit that, like, basically work on the shit that the shit don't do, you know. Like basically it was work on the stuff that the product poops out to help us figure out where the issue is with the product, but you're not working on the actual product. Does that make any sense? So that's kind of like, that's kind of like what I thought about when I read that last paragraph in One Woman's Army. So I got about 12 more chapters to read. The next episode for Trippin with Theobold, or the next 688 centric edition of Trippin with Theobold will be episode 126, right? Because every episode that contains a 6 or an 8, that means that it's going to be dedicated to something 688 centric. So I should have the book read by then, so I'm debating if I'm going to do it. I might do it in parts. I don't want to, we're going to be loose with it. Next time we talk 688 talk, we're probably going to, I'll probably just do enough of a chunk to where I could do about 20-30 minutes on it. And if that covers 4 chapters, it covers 4 chapters. If it covers 8, it covers 8. But that's how we're going to do it. So before we go any further, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, do all that fun internet stuff, like the old people say. Once again, AT is where it's at on most forums. I could not be a weather person because I can't point to nothing. AT is where it's at. There we go. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. So follow me. And with all that being said, I'm out of here, folks. Peace. Yep. Trippin with Theobold.
Let's go.
Caliente.
Trippin.
Yep.
Trippin. Trippin. Trippin with Theobold.
Trippin with Theobold.